Let's see. Is it plan? Oh, let's go. Oh, people can see me on that one. Wonder what the Rumble's looking like. Got some new graphics on Rumble. Let's see how it's going. Oh, maybe it's not working. I'll go live. So I've got my chats up. Let's get a post out on X. Because we are back. Don't let me forget to switch over to the main cam here soon. So much fun stuff now. Guys thought I wasn't working. Thought I wasn't working over the break. Doing neat stuff for you guys. Okay. We're back. Lots to cover from over my break. Join me on Rumble or YouTube now. What do you guys think about this? Somebody tell me what you think about the new cam angle. Oop, not even centered on the main one. Okay, well, yeah, we're back, guys. Switch to the main cam. Here we go. All right, today is Monday, January 5th. 2026. This is episode number 29 of Addressing the Issues. We're back. I took a little break, spent some time with the family. I intended to go live one last Monday before I took the break, and I didn't. I told you guys we would cover the Epstein file thing, and I guess I had a little bit more time to look over it now. We'll get into that at the end today. But I promised I would, and then I messed up, had some family stuff come up, and just decided to spend the holidays with my family. So I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and is having now a Happy New Year, 2026. Every other episode I said 2025. Now we're on 2026. So we're back. So what have we missed in the last 2-3 weeks? So Venezuela's ex-president Maduro appeared in U.S. court today. If you told me this was going to happen at the time of the last episode, I would have never believed you. So how did we get to Nicolas Maduro being indicted in the Southern District of New York today on 4 charges? These charges were narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. So how we got here. In the pre-dawn hours of January 3rd, the United States launched a joint task force, including the Army, Navy, and Air Force, in an operation called Operation Absolute Resolve, with the goal of capturing Maduro and extraditing him to the United States on an arrest warrant. With extensive air support, Delta Force operators flew into a heavily fortified Fuerte Tiuna in a suburb of Caracas, the location of the compound in which Maduro was hiding. Delta Force would then arrest Maduro and his wife, Mirandizing them and then transporting them to the USS Iwo Jima, then Guantanamo Bay, then finally on a flight to New York, where they appeared today in court. The operation lasted about 90 minutes in total and was reportedly witnessed by Chinese diplomats that were in Caracas working to implement stronger ties between China and Venezuela. So in the aftermath, how'd this end up, I guess? The U.S. operation was highly effective, resulted in no loss of life of U.S. personnel while capturing the target of the operation alive, which was Maduro and his wife. That morning we could see celebrations across the Latin world from the Venezuelan diaspora, which had to flee Maduro. People took to the streets, celebrating and dancing from Madrid to Miami to Santiago to Buenos Aires, across the world, with many pledging that they were finally able to return to their home in Venezuela. Which is good. I'm glad that these people feel safe going home. It's unfortunate that they had to flee a regime such as that, but, I hope the best for Venezuela in the future. Obviously, I'm sure everybody else does. But Delcy Rodriguez is now the interim leader of Venezuela, while the U.S. has claimed it would be in charge of the transitional period of the nation. However, these transitional plans do remain vague, at least in the public sense. Maybe there's a plan behind the scenes, but as of right now, we have no information as a regular citizen as to what this is going to entail in the future. Hopefully it's a fair election, not an installed leader. We've tried regime change, we've tried installed leaders. It never works out in the U.S.'s favor. But I hope, we can help them along with an election, an honest election in which the people will get to choose the next leader of their nation, as opposed to the U.S. staff, I guess you could call them. But since the operation, the U.S. has warned other leaders in the region that they would suffer similar, if not worse, fates than Maduro. These being Gustavo Petro of Colombia, Jose Jerry of Peru, with other threat insinuations taking aim at Miguel Diaz-Canel of Cuba. President Trump claimed that Cuba looks like it's ready to fall after being cut off from Venezuela oil, what is one of their key economic lifelines. And Gloria Sheinbaum of Mexico, citing the powerful cartels that seem to be running the country of Mexico. This came alongside a U.S. Navy MQ-4 Triton drone doing surveillance along the maritime borders of Mexico today. So we'll see how that plays out, if the U.S. thinks Mexico's next or not. I don't know how many more of these, you can do in a row without losing any lives. I just don't. But outside of the region, both Greenland and Iran were not spared either. President Trump has said that Greenland was needed for U.S. national security, offering to purchase the island once again. And President Trump also warned Iran that it would face severe consequences for continued protester deaths. Over the past few days, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have opened fire on protesters in the streets of Iran, and then even going into hospitals where victims were being treated and reportedly beat up and arrested. They arrested both victims and their family members that were in hospitals. That's some scary stuff. But ignoring the threats on Iran, this seems to be what would be a modern Monroe Doctrine, what it would look like in the 21st century. Quelling foreign influence of oil, not only China, but Russia and Iran through their respective shadow fleet. And threatening the narcotics trade of Colombia, Peru, and Mexico, which flows directly into the United States. Also choking off Cuba, which has been historically used by Russia for spying, but now hosts Chinese spy bases as well, just 90 miles off the coast of Florida. These would be Berhukal, Calabazar, El Saalo, and Waje. But this would not only ensure that the U.S. was in charge of economics and oil in its own hemisphere, but it would restrict the trade of narcotics internationally and ensure security of both intelligence and of shipping transit lanes, such as the Yucatan Channel, the Windward Passage, and the Straits of Florida. This is relevant because the United States' recent interests and moves that take back control of traffic through the Panama Canal. We've seen large strides to prohibit or inhibit Chinese influence on the Panama Canal. And I think this is just the next step in that. But these moves, along with gunboat diplomacy, makes it reasonable to assume that the U.S. has vested interest in a more modern Monroe Doctrine that not only wants to secure its hemisphere, but control regional trade. But in court today, Maduro pleaded not guilty. We're yet to see if he will face justice, or as he could be exiled to a different country. A judge could force his release as a possibility as well, and the charges could be forced to be dropped due to lack of evidence. This is in a different country. This isn't typical FBI domain. But we'll see how all this goes. I hope for Venezuela's sake that they do get to have their country back. They get to have fair elections, stuff like that. But I'm also worried that, bad guys could get off just because of the justice system here in America, and how, flawed it is. We'll get into that at the end, but it's a small success, but there's much more to go. So we'll get into another story that happened over the break. So another interesting development is the investigation of YouTube journalist Nick Shirley and the healthcare and daycare fraud in Minnesota. Nick Shirley released a 43-minute video investigating the fraud of daycares, autism centers, and home health companies in Minnesota, which, according to Washington, has defrauded U.S. taxpayers of multiple billion dollars. In this investigation, he partnered with a Minnesota man named David, who has spent years of his own life investigating the Somali fraud rings, which have funneled money back to Somalia, including to the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab terrorist group. That should be worrying to anybody. You probably don't want your taxpayers funding terrorism more than they already have. So in this video, he visits multiple daycare licensed to receive taxpayer funds for subsidized childcare with no children inside, and millions in grants apiece, which would not offer him or his imaginary son childcare. He attempts to go to an autism facility, which claims to have probably more than 5 total kids. That's a quote. Probably more than 5 is the quote of how many people are there, or that go there, which was licensed to receive grants for 90 children, and received $3.67 million in 2025 alone. So probably more than 5 kids got $3.67 million for childcare. Sounds like fraud. He also went to numerous home health care facilities, which would not offer health care to him, even threatened him for asking about where the money was going, which doesn't sound like the best health care plan to me. Normally when I get healthcare, I'm not threatened. But throughout the video, not a single child is seen at a healthcare facility. And often multiple of these facilities were documented receiving money for more than one business under one roof, meaning that they're double dipping with one building to receive extra funds for fraud. The November 19th article that I covered, I guess a month and a half ago now, it seems, from Ryan Thorpe and Christopher F. Rufo, has really opened the floodgates into exposing this fraud in Minnesota, using U.S. taxpayer funds to fund Al-Shabaab and Somalia in general. And Nick Shirley in his December 26th video gave us a glimpse into what this actually looks like. It looks like empty daycares, empty autism centers, healthcare facilities that threaten you when you try to expose the fraud. But this seems to be a large reason why Governor Tim Walz announced today that he would not be running for re-election. It seems the scheme he allowed, and possibly why he was sought as a VP nominee for the United States, was being atop a large fraud ring. And it's possibly ended his political career since it's been brought to light. So now, I ask myself, what if he was the vice president? Would this have ever been found out? Would this system be implemented on a national scale, where they're using taxpayer funds to even further fund terrorist groups abroad, more than the CIA already has, more than USAID already has? I guess we'll never know, but we now know that this has allowed the defrauding of taxpayers across our nation, as you do pay into this through your taxes. As I guess Minnesota is subsidized by the federal government for these programs. So yes, your dollars are going to these programs, and they are being shipped overseas, and often end up in the hands of a terrorist group named Al-Shabaab, which is linked to Al-Qaeda. Not really what you want. So, I guess we'll get into the Epstein stuff. I said in my last live stream I would look into the Epstein Files released by the Department of Justice, and of course, leading the list of unindicted mentioned people, not named Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, is Donald Trump with 3,064 mentions, followed, throughout the files. This was followed by Prince Andrew with 1,541 mentions, and Bill Clinton with 1,372 mentions. Other prominent people mentioned are Barack Obama at 776 mentions, George Bush at 324 mentions, and Joe Biden with 287 mentions. I'll get into why these mentions are so high in a minute. But the main issue with what has been released so far is that the only people accused of any wrongdoing are those that were named by Virginia Roberts Guthrie, such as Prince Andrew, and that not every single document was released by the DOJ, which honestly should be held in contempt of Congress at this point. It was signed into law that they would release all these things, and if they're not releasing all of them, they're breaking the law. That's it. That's just the simplest way to put it. But this is what I was worried about when I said that they were allowed to redact anything related to sources and methods of intelligence agencies. Due to the lack of transparency in the release of these files, it seems that this was highly likely a intelligence operation, one meant to put powerful people in compromising positions, which could be in turn used to blackmail them into working into the interests of others instead of their own. Given that other people named in the files, namely leaders of foreign states, it seems that this was an attempt to exert control over individuals using their relations to Jeffrey Epstein to manipulate them. But here's the crux of the issue with all the mentions. The main caveat is this includes people mentioned in any email Epstein received, including from news aggregates, meaning that if their name was mentioned by the press to his email, that would count as a mention. But I guess the crux of this is, this leads me personally to believe we'll likely never know the full truth. These victims will likely never receive justice. And this pattern still has the opportunity to unfold again in the future, further victimizing children at the behest of a controlling power. So, did we get what the Epstein Files Transparency Act by law promised? No. Will we likely ever? Probably not. We need to get back to justice. but we just get back to this rules for thee, not for me system of justice, one that's plagued our nation for years. It seems that we will never have true justice until everyone in this nation is treated equally under law. That includes financial status, race, sex, whatever you want to label people as. They need to all be treated equally under law. They need to be treated equally in general. But that's kind of where we are now. Kind of caught up on the big stories. We'll be back tomorrow. So if you did enjoy this broadcast, I hope everybody will drop a like, whether on YouTube or Rumble. Share it. I mean, a lot of this is old, but I think it's a pretty good synopsis of what's been going on. But yeah, make sure you like, comment. Comment at the end of this. What do you think the 51st state will be? There's plenty of options now. You've got Venezuela. You've got Cuba, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Greenland, Canada. Take your guess. What's going to be the next U.S. state, U.S. territory, you name it. I thought that'd be kind of funny. I've been thinking about that a little bit today. But yeah, make sure everybody's subscribed. Subscribed on YouTube, follow on Rumble, turn notifications on. We're going to get back into a more, I guess, we'll get back in the schedule here. I'm not slacking. I've been making, things that make the stream a little bit better. So I hope you guys are enjoying those. I hope the video played before at the beginning of the day. I'll have to check that out. But I did do a little bit of video editing. There should be some more soon. I'll probably get to that over this weekend because I work on these all day, every day. But yeah, make sure everybody's following. And if you'd like to support me financially, there's always the money sign on Rumble. It's a little cash symbol. So over here, you can support me once, just a one-time donation. You can make it a monthly donation. Whatever your choice is, I appreciate it all. All goes back into the stream, get you more fun angles and stuff like that. So I appreciate all you guys tuning in. I mean, that's the most important. Your daily viewership is by far the most important. But, help me beat the algorithm, get out there a little bit more. And, I mean, all that's appreciated. And if you did see anything, that is clippable, something that would make a good short video, you can always do that on YouTube afterwards. I'd appreciate that as well. Send it to me. I'll repost it on X. But yeah, I appreciate you all. Got everybody coming back, and we're getting back on schedule here. Like I said, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, and I hope everybody's having a great New Year. I hope 2026 is great for all you guys. That's all we've got for today. So, I guess we'll get back to my classic outro. If you guys are whoa. To all my people on the East Coast, I hope you get home safe. To my people further west, I hope you finish up your workday strong and get home safe as well. Thank you guys. I'll see you again.